Ladies and gentlemen, the big fear in America is a double dip recession. Now, we already are in a recession, but it can dip again if there happen to be a lockdown. And that's inevitable. There are states already talking about lockdowns, but America better think about how they're going to do a lockdown and how it's going to be implemented and how you're going to get your people to comply, because it's not going to make sense to lock down folks and then you got other folks still walking around here being all defiant. They're not going to lock down. They're not going to put a mask on. They're not going to social distance. They're not going to do this and that. Then it's counterproductive to lock down if that's what it's going to be. You're going to either get everybody to comply or not, or you're going to have to do something with these folks that are hell-bent on not complying. You're going to have to figure out what you're going to do with them, because doing nothing, look at where we are now with the do nothing approach. So you got a problem on your hands. If you're not going to do anything to these defiant ass people that are walking around, then locking down again is counterproductive. I'm just saying. And we're going to have a big explosion in COVID because you saw all that big protest and fighting and everything that went on in DC. We getting ready to head towards another big week of surges. So this is The Hill, November 15th, 2020. Fears of double dip recession rise along side of COVID-19 cases. And it is bad. It is very bad across this nation. I think Saturday was 184,000 new cases overnight. Yeah, it'll be 200,000 in no time. A sharp spike in COVID-19 cases across the US is threatening the economic recovery and increasing the odds of a double dip recession. Daily coronavirus infections surpassed 100,000 for the first time earlier this month. Since then, we have surged past 150,000 mark. At the same time, congressional leaders fear increasingly unlikely to strike a deal on another COVID-19 relief package, even as another round of key unemployment benefits are set to expire in the coming weeks. And that's another thing that's ridiculous in America. You don't see no other country fighting and squabbling over what to do for their citizens. This is the only country on the world stage making drama out of whether they're going to help the people or not. What a disgrace. All right. Economists across the political spectrum have consistently warned that sustained growth is dependent on getting the coronavirus under control, with many now viewing the rise in infection with heightened concern. Alarmingly, to put it mildly, Beth Ann Bovino, chief U.S. economist and S&P Global, if this spreads and governments are forced to go back to lockdown measures, this very fragile recovery is sure to fail. And it is. A double dip recession is going to put America in a situation it may not get back to where it was in February, which I don't believe you're ever going back to that point personally. It will probably take you well over a decade to reach that. And beyond that, it could even be longer than a decade. So earlier this year, S&P Global forecast several scenarios for an economic recovery. The baseline scenario, which would lead to a 4% decline in gross domestic product, assumed Congress would pass a limited $500 billion relief bill and that the winter spike in COVID-19 would be under control. You ain't getting nothing under control. You ain't even going to get your economy under control at this point. Instead, there is no coronavirus relief package and cases are surging. Well, whatever plans economists had for recovery, you need to can that mess and deal with the situation you're looking at now and stop talking all that growth crap. You don't have no growth going on. You don't have that. Deal with it. Deal with what's in front of you. Everything that is happening now, the risk of resurgence in COVID-19, as well as policymakers walking away from stimulus negotiations, those two factors are why my team had feared would happen, said Bovino. Without improvements on either front, a bigger economic contraction is likely to the tune of 5.1%. It wouldn't be as large as what we experienced in the first half of the year, but it would be a double dip, Bovino said. No, it's going to be far worse, Bovino. You know, you somewhat ain't living in reality yourself. The jump in coronavirus cases can affect two crucial aspects of the economy: business operations and consumer confidence. In Europe, several countries have reimposed severe restrictions or resorted to a second round of lockdowns in an attempt to ease the strain on hospitals. And we know Trump opposes lockdowns at any level of government, and the presidential candidate elect Joe Biden's transition team has indicated they would favor targeting hotspots instead of the nation as a whole. I think this is a dimmer switch, not an on and off light switch. Celine Gounder, who is advising Biden on his COVID-19 response, said to CSNBC interview Friday, I think we need to close only. So, in other words, they're just saying focus on those areas that are spreading bad, but it's spreading bad everywhere. You know, they said 47 out of 50 states. That's not good at all. So, already states such as Michigan, New York, Oregon, and Virginia have announced they will reimpose more restrictive measures to curb the virus. So, they want to go back to placing limits on how many people can gather. That's what they're talking about. And restricting hours, bars, gyms, and restaurants can stay open. That's the kind of stuff they're talking about. Ben Ayers, senior economist at Nationwide Insurance, said those kind of steps would help avoid a double dip recession, as well as avoid the kind of full scale lockdown that much of the country saw in April when the pandemic took hold. You know, these people talk like they got some kind of full control over this. Well, we don't have to lock down because, we just got to do this and that. You don't have no control over this. But you listen to the way they talk. They talk like they got some control over this whole thing. They haven't had control over this thing from day one. That's why you're 10 months in and everything is going through the roof 10 months later. The estimation is that there's not much of an appetite for anything that severe. So we see the downside as slower growth, but not a double dip, he said. It's going to be a double dip, y'all. It's going to be a double dip. The odds say that once an expansion starts, it's really hard to slow the economy so quickly, he added. New Mexico, however, ordered a 2-week shutdown on Friday, a sign that more severe restrictions could soon be in place. Even without government restrictions, the increase in cases can, spook consumers, prompting them to stay at home instead of going out and spending money. And they're already talking about folks out there panic shopping again, y'all. That doesn't start up. It started up in several states already. People are doing it already because they're hearing about these cases going through the roof. You know something's coming. They're not going to be able to keep this place open. Get real. Consumer confidence dropped nearly 5%. So that was this month alone, it dropped 5%, almost entirely based on consumer expectations of what the economy will look like in the future, according to preliminary figures from the University of Michigan. While consumers in the early part of the recession were bolstered by stimulus checks and enhancements to state unemployment benefits, those revenue streams from Congress have, disappeared. And at this point, it's in the Senate. It seems like it's just going to collect dust in the Senate. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell has insisted that fiscal stimulus remain among the most important factors affecting the economy's near-term trajectory. But Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell remains miles apart on striking a deal for more coronavirus relief. Pelosi favors a $2.2 trillion measure the House passed in October, while McConnell wants legislation close to $500 billion, which is not enough for the whole country. That's not enough money. So, $500 billion, you might as well say you don't really want to do anything for the country. Haven't done nothing for the country yet. So, ladies and gentlemen, it don't look good. No matter how you see this thing, it don't look good. And I doubt if it will get better at this point in time. But America's in a lot of trouble. It's in a lot of trouble. And as these cases continue to grow and people are still out here gathering and doing all kinds of things and refusing to cooperate and all that, you're going to have a huge problem on your hand when winter comes. The problem with these folks is they don't know how to strategize and come up with new ways of doing things. Now, you're going to lock down the country in the same manner that you did the first time, and look at where we are 10 months later. There is no thinking outside of the box. And as I told you before, this is as far as these people can go. These are not the people that you see leading right now that's going to take this earth to the next level. They can't even take themselves to the next day without falling apart. Okay, shoot, forget all of that. But, we got to rely on each other and not them at all. These laughable leaders, let them go and be to themselves. And the rest of us, we're just going to have to strategize and figure out how we're going to get through this thing as these cases continue to explode in the country. Remember, you had huge numbers of people gathered to vote just a week ago. You had some big protest in Washington, D.C. This shit ain't never going away. Okay. I ain't never going away. But y'all, please tell me what you think. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.